is. Are we hold on a second. There it is. Hey, what's happening? What's going on? Oh, sometimes you just gotta do stuff like that, right? Just get the out. What's going on? Robert Phoenix here. Another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm having my Anthony Robbins moment. Because when you're you just have to change the state. Change the state you're in. Do that energy exchange, change state, and then you can really be an impact in your life and in the life of other people. So I'm doing a change state right now. What's going on? We are now 48 hours out from the lovely event that happened down in Charlottesville. We were all able to practice our rights, our freedom, the right to assemble, our First Amendment rights. Oh, what a great country we live in. What a shit show it was, and we are going to explore after we get through the numb. Right? We've got to get through the numb. You know what the numb is? The numb is the first, 24 hours, And you step back and you go, well, what's really going on here? What's really taking place? Man, it's big. It's a big event. It is a big event in American history. And as we look back on the times that Barack Obama presided over the United States of America as president, by the way, if you haven't checked out Tom Hanks's road trip with the Obamas on YouTube, there are various videos where Hanks basically gets frozen out by the Obamas and realizes that he may not be in the right place with the right people. And it was Oprah and Obama and Michelle and Bruce Springsteen, of all people. God. I used to like Bruce Springsteen a long time ago. You know, his best period are those first, in my estimation, being somebody who has some background in music business, his best albums are his first 3.5, 4 albums. And I'll go out on a limb and say Darkness on the Edge of Town might be Bruce Springsteen's best record of all time. But what a disappointment Springsteen's become. He's just dyed-in-the-wool, high-paid, extremely well-paid communist, social Marxist. That's what he is. So what's going on out there? Tom Hanks is trying to figure it out like the rest of us. This thing in Charlottesville, it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer that we have been privy to a psyop and a false flag. And we're going to have to get into it. We're going to have to put the gloves on. We're going to have to put the waders on. We're going to have to, wade out into the sewer, into the shit stream, and try to pluck out kind of what happened and the impact of it in terms of the micro, the macro, everything else that's going on. Now, I apologize for being a bit late today, but I have my son with me for the entire week, and I'm only going to really kind of jam here for about 30 minutes so I can spend some quality time with the lad. Let's go back and look at some salient facts around two things, both of which may not be related. But number one, who do we have organizing this event? Unite the Right. Who is it? It's a guy by the name of Jason Kessler. And some of you may already know this, but for those of you that don't, Jason Kessler, for really up until 1996, right around, I don't know when he had the on the road to Damascus moment. He was an Obama supporter. He was an Obama supporter, and he was an Occupy organizer. That's Jason Kessler. So, everybody can have a change of mind, a change of heart. I think it's, that's kind of what we, sometimes we preach, or sometimes we encourage that people can understand things from a different point of view, and then, have a different relationship to reality, truth, etc., fill in the blank. And other times, maybe they just go from having a white background with black dots and having the black background with white dots, and they change their dots, but nothing really changes. So perhaps, maybe, we don't know yet completely, but maybe Jason Kessler was an agent provocateur, meaning that he was there to set everything up, and to set everything up in such a way where it would literally have the potential of going south, really south, further south than Charlottesville. So that's kind of on the public record now. People are trying to understand who this guy is, what his background is, and what his intentions are. Remember, both sides are infiltrated. Both sides are infiltrated. This is the way it's always worked for a very long time. As soon as the Tea Party got set up, it got infiltrated, and it got teabagged, and became absolutely, really nothing anymore. So these movements are infiltrated, and then they're essentially denatured, Pardon me as I finish this up coffee now. The other thing we know is that the day of the event was George Soros' birthday. That's right, George Soros' birthday. I wish I had some booze on here. Boo. Boo. Which one is this? That laughter, I think I'm looking at my little face. Yeah, it was George Soros' birthday on the day that we had this bizarreness of Charlottesville. There we go. And of course, there were plenty of Craigslist postings for hiring Antifa rioters and protesters. And I want to be Fox News here for a moment, although I'm not really going to attempt to be Fox News, but I try to be fair and balanced. Because if you look at what happened with this guy, Steve Scalise, and the shooter, if that indeed was even kind of a real event in and of itself, we always have to push the reality button on both sides. The left did nothing. They had no outrage whatsoever about some guy, some lone gunman going in and shooting Steve Scalise and the two Washington police that were there to watch that practice for the baseball game. It took place at 6:30 in the morning. There's no outrage over that. Underneath their breath, they're probably saying, "Shit, couldn't you have been a better shot? Couldn't you have really picked him off and put it into that son of a bitch?" But no, there's no outrage whatsoever. There's never any outrage on the left. And if you've been watching these riots, and a lot of you are really hungry and you're tracking down information. But if you look at what happened, first of all, in Berkeley, when Milo was supposed to go out there, Milo Yiannopoulos, and his book stop, whatever it was, got canceled. The crowd went nuts, and they did all kinds of damage. They destroyed businesses. They destroyed, whatever they wanted to do. They were given a free pass. They were the cops, Berkeley PD, the security, the local, the school security. They were all told to stand down. But all the real mayhem took place off campus, and they were destroying and burning and smashing windows. And there was never anything really brought up about how dangerous and how volatile and how anarchic that was, because the media basically is bought and sold and paid for by a large group and a contingency or small group of contingency that has a message that they want to repeat over and over again. And it's very clear that the media is going to weigh in on the side of globalism, internationalism, and it doesn't want to tolerate anything that even remotely looks like nationalism. So this is not part of the playbook that these guys want to support at all. So we have these events in Berkeley, and there's no hue and cry about it. And it was bad. It was really, really bad. Cops told to stand down. These are businesses that were, huge amounts of money, huge amounts of damage, in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think her name is Yvette Falarka, is that her name? Who's, the head of By Any Means Necessary. She advocated it. She basically said it's the fault of the business owners because they didn't complain loud enough to keep Milo off the campus. I mean, it's almost like strong-arm extortion tactics that are being practiced by the left. And I don't know if you've seen this now, but people are getting fired for showing up at rallies. Like, for instance, if you go, this is the next thing that they're going to do, or they're in the planning stages. Jack Posobiec, who is, I'll actually like Jack Posobiec. He's an interesting guy. I like him a little more than Mike Cernovich. I mean, Cernovich has some nads, but Posobiec basically says we're going to go march on Google. We're going to march on Google because of what Google's doing to our content. Now, you know what's going to happen? Is that march on Google will then be related to whatever happened in Charlottesville. And there are going to be pictures there. There are going to be people with cameras. And they're going to find out who's marching. And they're going to put those pictures up on Facebook. And guess what's going to happen? Those people could lose their jobs. And this is already what's going on now. This is the face of America now. We have little brother, who is big brother's little bitch, who are going out and turning people in for theoretically having a stance. And this whole idea with Nazis and fascism, it's a complete and utter crock of shit. Because when the Newlands decided that they were going to overthrow Ukraine with our tax money, by the way, using our tax dollars, that's right, our tax dollars, the Newlands overthrew Ukraine and they installed a fascist government. Nobody said a damn thing. Nobody on the left ever said a damn thing. The Newlands apparently now have their sights set on, guess what? Right here, this country. It's taken them a while, but this is the Purple Revolution in action. We're seeing it now. You are a witness to it now. This is about the overthrow of the United States of America, boys and girls. And some of you may say, oh, great, wow, wonderful. Kill what? Kill what? Karma's a bitch. Kill. Be careful. Be careful what you ask for. Because you don't know what will happen, and you don't know who your next dancing partner is going to be. And I can assure you that the next dancing partner won't be nearly as compassionate from a Christian perspective and point of view. Trust me on this. There's a guy who, I think he listens to the show. His name is Greg. And Greg has a very strong message. It's time for the white race to die. It's karma. It's karma. Karma's a bitch. Okay, well, let's just say, for instance, let's just play this out. Let's say it is the karmic payback of all time, and white race is eradicated. Everybody's like having a drum circle. What's left? What's left and who's left? Okay? Who do you think is going to have the numbers at that point? I'll tell you right now, it's going to be the Chinese. The Chinese. You think the Chinese are going to be, and I'm not talking about Asian people in this country, I'm talking about the Chinese government, where there's billions of people billions and billions of people waiting to expand their territories. Do you think the Chinese will be all warm and fuzzy? Do you think they'll bring their drums to the drum circle? I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, the Chinese for a long time have been very efficient at organ harvesting for people who are dissidents. And I'm not trying to be a scaremonger. I'm just trying to give you a context about what happens in the void. That's just one example, right? I mean, so if you are a dissident in China, they basically wrap you up, tie you down, rush you to the airport, and they will harvest your organs while you're alive, because that's how it has to happen. It's the best way to harvest an organ. They'll go right in, and this is no anesthetic. No anesthetic. They'll go right in, they'll harvest the organ. Of course, the amount of fear that is shooting through that organ at that time, it's probably not that good for the organ, nor for the transplantee, or the one who's receiving the transplant. Then they put them in these ice-cold storage boxes, and then they get them right on planes, and they ship them right out to destinations where they're paid top dollar for. See, this is how dissidence is dealt with in China. They don't mess around. So just remember, in the void, be ready to dance with who's left. And then, of course, you'll have the oligarchs, because the oligarchs are the ones that are orchestrating pretty much everything. And if that's the case, well then, good luck with that, because they won't have much use for dissidents either. All they want is compliant slaves and their army of AI bots that are going to be ready, willing, and able to go. Now, let me just say this also. From a numbers perspective, now I think that for a time being at least, our good friends, the bankers and the oligarchs, want as many people in the system as possible because of what's going to happen next with the money. Have you guys been paying attention with ACC? Oh boy. Oh boy. Ethereum and Bitcoin have been adopted by the IMF, and I told you guys a long time ago, that I thought that Bitcoin was going to be the new financial system for the beast. And my Bitcoin friends were like, no, never happened. Oh, well, looky here. ACC is part of the new currency. The videos have been circulating over the last 24 hours. This is the real deal. They're going to digitize everything. Everything will have a value associated with it. If you have a Range Rover, it'll be digitized, it'll be an asset. If you have a house, it'll be digitized and it'll be an asset. If you have a TV, it'll be digitized and be an asset. They're going to digitize the entire freaking planet. Everything. Everything will have a digital composite, which means it has a value. The entire freaking planet. Trees will be digitized. Herbs will be digitized. Because these are all assets. And the assets will be commodities inside of a massive blockchain. And that's it. Everything will be in the infinite black cube of digital process. Monetization. That's coming. That's coming with Uranus and Taurus. And so for that moment in time, they want as many people on board as possible, I believe, because those people have relationships with their assets, right? And so they want those assets basically sucked into this major system where everything is digitized and becomes part of this massive asset base. It's kind of like the whole idea between like a basket of currencies. You know, a basket of currencies would be things like, let's say you're a country and you have X amount of dollars in sort of hard assets. And then you have your assets that are connected to things like wood and timber. Then you have your mineral assets, and then you have your petroleum assets, and then you have whatever other kind of tradable assets that might be kind of still on the table, right? And those all go into what's called a basket of currencies. Each one of those represents the ability to be traded or monetized. This is a massive basket of currency. The entire planet becomes a basket of currency. So the more people around for that period, the better. Because they want as much. I mean, it probably will come down to even you being monetized as an asset. Right? I mean, think about that. Your children, what are they worth? This is the world that's coming. Meanwhile, we're running around, yelling at each other, screaming at each other, pissed off at each other. I swear, the people in Charlotte had a moment in time, man. They should have just come together and looked at those, the Charlottesville PD, and just like marched on those dudes. That would have been an amazing moment in American history. But of course, that's not going to happen because the Divide and Conquer program is up and running and at maximum efficiency. And people don't understand that. They don't understand because people are so ingrained and they all have their vendetta. All right, let's go back into Charlottesville a little bit more. We know for a fact that these people who were the alt-right side they were kettled. They were brought into the park and they were basically contained to the point where the violence and the chaos and the bedlam was encouraged. The cops, of course, were told to stand down, just like they were told to stand down in Berkeley. I mean, this whole thing with the police is just ridiculous. They're either overstepping or they're understepping, right? They're either taking somebody out who they probably shouldn't be taking out, or they're understepping and they're not doing anything. There's no golden mean where they actually are engaged in some form of real crowd control and understanding the dynamic of what can happen. No, because they were participants in this whole event, even by being non-participants up to a certain point. And then once they decided that the event was going to be over because there had been too much fraction and friction and tension and violence and people getting hit with pepper spray who were doing absolutely nothing, they decided to shut it down. And then they were going to put these guys in the park through the perp walk, and that's where it all goes to hell in a handbasket. Okay, so there was a woman who died, and apparently 20 people were killed. Or not, I'm sorry, killed. Were wounded. Wounded. Okay. So this comes back to what Alice Liu, I'm sorry, Alice, your name is out there because you're on my YouTube feed. She brought this up yesterday during the show. And she said that the driver of the car was being hit by baseball bats. Okay? So he's trying to get away. He's trying to get away. And these are this is a series of tweets here that I received. The guy's, but his name is Taylor Lorenz. Says the driver was taken into police custody right after the incident. Police say the car was covered in dents prior and apparently hit by a bat. Okay, so what we have there is we have some evidence about what happened to the car. And then Taylor says, if you watch the earlier part of my stream, you can see anti-right wing chasing after a Lexus and throwing rocks and bottles a shoe. The car was not the one that mowed people down. That was a different gray car. Anyway, several police officers at the station here think the guy running people down wasn't malicious. They said the driver was scared. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. We have a major disconnect. We have a guy who is apparently going to be like the Lee Harvey Oswald of Charlottesville. And everybody's condemning him. He was there. He was protesting. He's 20 years old. He probably has extreme views. 20-year-old, It's not lived very much. Extreme views. He's there, he's down there, and he's trying to get away. He finds himself in a situation where all of a sudden things are getting very real and very heavy. And he tries to get out. Meanwhile, another car plows into the crowd. Isn't this interesting now? Yeah, it's getting a little deeper, isn't it? So what are those guys down in Charlottesville going to do? If they know for a fact that there was something else going on there, if they know for a fact that there were two cars, what are they going to do? Because I assure you, they know. They know. There are cameras everywhere. Everywhere. Okay? The future of the United States, and even the world in many ways, depends upon some people down in Charlottesville who were there and part of the stand down, who were witness to what was happening and hold a body of evidence. Instead of some frothing, meth-fueled, racist, raging anarchist deciding he's going to take a bunch of people out with a car, he was probably just trying to get away. Meanwhile, there is another vehicle involved in some actual damage, wreckage, and the injuries and fatality that resulted in this. Okay, this is an interesting point. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens with these guys down in Charlottesville. Why was the helicopter downed? Why was the helicopter down? Okay, this is an interesting piece. Because there was a rumor that a police helicopter went down, and the guys in the helicopter died. This is not being talked about, though, really. Could it be that the helicopter had a vantage point and actually had footage of what was really taking place over the area? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there because there's this rumor that this helicopter went down. Wouldn't that be interesting? And if that's the case, then their brothers are on the police force over there in Charlottesville. And if that's true, and that's the reason why the helicopter went down, then the blood is on their hands. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. You know, the event happened when Mercury was stationing. It was a bad time to have an event, have a rally. But I'll tell you what, though, because we're in Mercury retrograde now, and it was in that station, in the deep shadow of Mercury retrograde, things are going to come out over this. I guarantee you. We're going to have pieces of information that are going to come out of this thing that it's going to blow people's minds. Get ready for it, because this thing is not over. It's not done. It is not over. And it has been used as a wedge to drive people further and further apart, to add fuel for this takedown of the United States, the Color Revolution, which is the Purple Revolution, which started really the day after Donald Trump got elected. Trump came out and basically had a speech. I thought Trump's speech was fantastic. You know, but it wasn't. There wasn't enough condemnation for the far right and the alt right. He came back later and he sort of tore into them. But this, when you look at what Trump said, it's really the speech Obama should have had about 3 years ago. That's the speech he should have had after the Michael Brown incident. But Obama never did that. Obama never said, we got to rise above this. We've got to love one another. Those were Trump's words. Those weren't Obama's words. Obama never said that. What Obama did is he encouraged more dissension. He applauded their right to assemble. He applauded their right to protest. He had Black Lives Matter over at the White House again and again and again and again. I think, I don't know the exact figure, but it was a lot. They were constantly at the White House. So a lot of what we're dealing with, and I'm sorry to say this, you can call me racist, I don't give a shit, but a lot of this has to do, it falls at the feet of Barack Obama, because he did not come out and say we can't have this. And the reason why is because they were staging the events, they were ordering the stand downs, they wanted as much violence and social discord as possible. He never wanted to be a Martin Luther King-like figure and kind of unite us. That was never in his plan. His plan was dissent. His plan was to divide and conquer the American people across racial lines. And here we are 8 years later with all this fuel. It's ugly. I'm sorry, it's ugly. And I thought Trump's speech was okay. But then he comes out and later and he lays down the law and says, oh yeah, we're not going to tolerate hate of any kind. And he names the groups, and it's not enough. But of course what he does, he begins to alienate his base. Like, you mealy-mouthed motherfucker. Why can't you stand up for what happened? Well, he did. He did. Being a president like that, man, it's got to be a heavy job. Because you've got pressure coming at you from all sides. All sides. I mean, I wouldn't want to be Donald Trump, in spite of the fact that he's got a beautiful wife, if she is a woman. If she's not a woman, man, that's a good-looking dude, right? And he's got all that money, and he's got the good kids, and whatever. I wouldn't want that gig. It'd be horrible. If I had that gig, I wouldn't last 24 hours. I mean, they'd kill me. They'd take me out, man. Because I wouldn't pull any punches. I'd go right to the 9/11 playbook and just rip that son of a bitch right out and go, here it is. This is who really did 9/11. This is what really happened. This is what happened to you, you poor bastards. Shocked and awed. And you just fell right into it. Well, here's your chance to reclaim everything and get it all back. And by the way, this is what happened to Kennedy, and I got this right here too. I'd be like Moses. Instead of the 10 Commandments, I'd have the 2 Commandments. JFK and 9/11. I'd be like Rambo with my 2 guns, JFK and 9/11, just blasting away. I don't care. I'd be the 48-hour president, and I'd be happy. I could die happy if that was the case. And by the way, I have no desire to play a martyr. Don't been there, done that. Prior lifetime. Okay, there's going to be more happening. There's going to be more fallout from Charlottesville. This thing is not over. I've gone through my 48-hour numb down. Now I'm iced up and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to tackle this thing. All in the spirit of truth and awareness, and coming into the space where we're just not going to be manipulated anymore. And you know what? We'll take the hits along the way, but we're in a firefight now. We're in a firefight now. We've got the eclipse coming, so get ready. Get ready, boys and girls. All right, that's it. Should I leave you with something positive today? Yeah, let's just round this off with something positive. The truth shall set you free. Never forget that. And even in times where the truth is obfuscated, and even in times where the truth has become a blurry edge on the event horizon, it's there. It does not go away. It is immutable. It is fixed. It is eternal, and it is divine as the day that the first dawn cracked on this beautiful, holographic wonderland. That's it for today. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you've been listening to 15 Minutes a flame.